So, hi, welcome everybody to today's OpenJ9 community call. We don't have a lightning talk up to start with today, but is there any general community discussion points anybody would like to bring up? Does anybody on the call have suggestions for lightning talks they'd like to give in the upcoming weeks? Don't everyone volunteer at once. All right, I know Mark.
I think generally performance is always interesting, but I don't know what topic areas you're looking for.
Pretty much any topic that may be of interest to the community related to OpenJ9. So if there are talks related to performance or other areas, you know, we'd love to have somebody who's willing to stand up and talk for 10 minutes to do that. All right.
Yeah, we'll think about it. Thanks.
All right, then I guess we will jump down to the general business. Irina, do you want to talk us through the issue queries?
Sure. So I went through all the queries. There is a small increase in the total number in issue, and there is a small decline in the PRs. And I started looking loosely at the closed PRs, and there is a really good reduction in PRs from the VM component that I thought I should call out. I'll check my numbers also after the meeting to make sure it's so good, but the numbers are excellent there. Any specific comments on this one, on the PRs and the issues?
Are you seeing any particular trends upward in the numbers?
Not scary, no scary trends, no. Like when you see one or two difference, it's not a huge, so nothing scary yet.
Looking at the numbers, I see things have been going up almost
Yes.
consistently week on week.
Yes, there is a constant trend of going up, but very slowly.
We may want to take a concerted effort and do a heavier pass through all the issues and see what's still relevant and what can be closed out.
Okay.
Just hopefully to make it more consumable and approachable for people looking at the project.
Okay.
All right. Any other questions or comments on this?
Do we have a lot of beginner items listed? I hadn't looked recently for people if they want to, help out.
There are some beginner items, but nowhere near as many as there should be. And I think there's a lot of items that could certainly be beginner items. Some of the test failures, for example, would be a great place to jump in and start figuring out why did this particular unit test start failing.
Have you been using the good first issue label at all in GitHub?
That's what we're talking about, yeah. We're wondering if we should be looking through the list and labeling a few more.
Yeah, no, it's a good way to do it. And of course, you can then actually provide a link directly to that query. So you can actually then say, if you want to get involved, check out this link first, and they can see all those issues on their own without all the weird ones sort of amongst them.
Yeah, it's a great idea. We should be doing a better job of tagging those and then surfacing queries for them. Take a note on that.
I'll revisit the test component, but I would imagine each component lead or people should take a look at theirs and see as well.
All right.
a general question about the numbers. Where we have issues 284 of them, but then the breakdown by JDK doesn't seem to add up to 284. So
Right, because they're not tagged.
sorry, they're not.
They're not. The breakdown by JDK is computed by checking the ones that are tagged with a specific JDK. And there are lots of them that are not tagged accordingly.
I see.
So
Right.
that's why the numbers don't add up. Yeah, that's a good observation. Yeah.
So for the ones that are tagged JDK 8, should I assume that those 10 are what we need to fix in order to do the next release to deliver a new version of JDK 8?
The way we've been dealing with that has been to tag things that are JDK specific with the JDK 8, 9, 10 labels. Issues that are required to be fixed for the next release, we've been assigning to the milestone for that particular release. I'm not sure what the list of 10 is right now, or what these 10 failures are, but if they're not in the 0.9 milestone, they're not considered blocking for the release.
Okay. So I guess my follow-on question would be, which are the defects for the 0.9 milestone, then, the issues?
So if I take a look at the 0.9, there are 9 open issues tagged against that. One of which is the intermittently failing compiles for JDK 10 on AIX. There's the Windows PR builds are always showing as passed. There's a command line tester failure on Windows. There's the reminder to add the 0.9 release notes. There's an issue with the signals not working on Apache Kafka. There's a request for help to generate a commits list for the release notes. There's an issue around the OpenJ9 builds not honoring the CC and CXX environment variables. There's the sort of epic for creating the large heap, the non-compressed rest build, and then the list of focus areas. So there's sort of 3 or 4 of these are release-related information and not actual issues, and that leaves sort of 4 or 5 that are things that need to be addressed.
Yeah, I think I found the link further down under the 0.9 release notes, which has the 9 open. Is that what you're looking at?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, thank you. That's what I was trying to find.
Any other questions or comments on the just going to add a link to the milestone in the issue section here.
Yeah, I can do it now. I'll do it right now.
All right. Moving on then to machines. I don't have an update on the University of New Brunswick collaboration. I'll continue to follow up on that. Are there any concerns right now around machines at the OpenJ9 project? Are there areas where we have insufficient machines or where we need to be growing the build farm?
Yeah, I have a question around the configuration of Windows machines at OpenJ9. Have those been configured using the playbooks at Adopt? Do you know?
Yes, they have.
Okay. And have the Windows test machines at Adopt been configured using the playbooks at adopt because the two machines are different. There's no SIGWIN on the test machines at adopt.
There's no SIGWIN on the test machines at adopt. Blimey.
Yeah.
There certainly should be SIGWIN on the test machines at adopt. I'll
Well,
get that.
I mean, the configuration of the machines at OpenJ9 are different than those at adopt, and I just want to figure out how or what are they both being configured with the playbooks, and if so, then how are they? Why are they different? I'll follow up, I guess, with an issue at adopt at the repo, I guess.
It sounds like it's probably my fault somewhere with the adopt machines rather than the J9 machines. I'll have a little look into that one and see why you don't have SIGWIN. I thought that the machines all had SIGWIN, but I'll take another look.
From what I saw the other day, you do have SIGWIN, but I think there was some other issues that possibly a Git version thing. And I recall seeing an issue that Brad changed something sort of outside of the playbook. So there might be more than one thing wrong with it. But
So maybe all we need to do, if the OpenJ9 Windows machines are configured with the playbooks, and we know we can run testing on those well, what we would just simply need to do then at adopt is make sure that they're configured in the same way.
Theoretically, unless there's extra dependencies.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Just good.
Often easy just to wipe the machine and spin it up again, but I feel like we've tried that. So
Yeah.
We've had an ongoing desire to provide Mac support on OpenJ9. I was wondering if we're getting closer to getting on with that, and we would need machines at OpenJ9. I don't know anything about the lead time we might have, but if we could do with not being held up by the lack of availability of machines, if we could kind of preempt that and get it ready in place for when we expect some code to be available for testing.
I missed the first part. Were you asking about Power 9?
No, Mac. So we've been talking about extending up J9 support to Mac, and I'm wondering, it would be a shame to be in a position to have some code but no machines to verify whether it worked in Eclipse OpenJ9. So if there's going to be a long lead time for things like getting new machines, then perhaps we better start sooner rather than later.
So our original plan around that had been to get Macs at UNB. We had a plan
And it
around.
was my understanding. I understood from Charlie that we have Macs at UNB.
We don't have any machines at UNB that we can use yet. Macs were part of the initial set of machines we were going to try to get there. So
these need to be external community machines with public IPs?
Yes.
I can certainly refer you to my contacts at Mac Stadium who would probably give you some Macs.
That would be wonderful.
Okay. Yeah, no, I can certainly put in an application for some more Mac hardware. That's fine. I don't think we're very short on Macs. So.
Are there any other topics around machines that we should be discussing?
We do have a backlog, trying to run all the pull request testing that people are starting. I think last night we had a backlog on X Linux, but I can't find how many jobs the backlog was. We're also having troubles getting OMR acceptance builds through for various reasons, because of the infrastructure problems, because of jobs builds timing out, and failures on AIX. I added something to the end of the agenda to talk about turning off JDK 9 PR builds and nightly testing, since it's out of service.
Okay, that was going to be my first question, was how much of this is running JDK 9 builds right now?
Yeah, so anybody who does a test, a Jenkins test sanity is going to get JDK 8, 9, and 10, which I think is overkill, especially because we're making no claims to support Java 9.
Are these run automatically on a pull request, or does someone have to tell the machine to run it?
A committer has to request they be run, but the command to run everything is what seems to be used quite a bit, and that includes 9.
Yeah, okay.
As a first stage, should we just remove 9 from the list of all and require explicitly requesting it if something is 9 specific?
Makes sense to me.
Yeah, that was my original thought.
Agree. And if you want, also we can turn off the nightly 9s.
I think if we turn it off from the pull requests, it probably is sufficient for now. Because the nightly, generally once the nightly kicks off, the farm's free, so it should be okay. But we can keep an eye on it, I guess.
Yeah.
I mean, Adopt's running nightlies as well, right, on the repos. So you could argue that perhaps it's possibly a tad overkill to be running nightly builds on a repo that we aren't claiming to support on 2 build farms.
True.
It's also costing triage time. So. And
Maybe
if
it's worth monitoring.
And if you count an internal server, we're monitoring 4 different Jenkins servers at the moment, or the
Part of the benefits of running testing in more than one server is we find the intermittent issues before they hit the community, or are more likely to find.
I don't think we do, but I understand that it gives comfort to people.
I think our history of running the testing internally has shown us that the more times we run the testing, the more likely we are to find those intermittent and uncommon issues.
We certainly find out when infrastructure is different underneath the testing at the different sites.
That too. As we move, hopefully the goal of moving everybody to be using Adopt's Ansible scripts, running them regularly, will put us in a better condition or better situation not to be hit by these infrastructure issues.
There also seems to be sometimes a lack of builds at Adopt. So we talked about this a couple of days ago. There's builds missing for quite a few platforms at Adopt.
Yeah, it's not actually a lack of builds, it's a lack of published builds. So I think from the recent changes that we work with Shelley and stuff to make, it's meant that some of the builds, for whatever reason, aren't getting published up to the website. But the builds are very much getting run every night. You can certainly see them.
Within the last 3 days, the release tool has stopped being run against some platforms, so that has to be corrected. There's, by the way, with the Win32, the new no compressor refs build, the new ARM64 SDK testing against things, the new EV3 build at Adopt, there's an influx of changes happening all at once by many different people. So yeah, I would say we have to stop and ensure that that release tool is working again, and it's the #1 thing on my list today. But if we manage to do nightlies at OpenJ9 and no longer ever look at nightlies at Adopt, what happens is no one cares except for the people that aren't within this team, which is everyone we're trying to serve.
Shelley, I don't think anyone is suggesting that we not care about the nightlies at Adopt. In fact, I believe my earlier suggestion was that having both of those running actually provides an extra measure of security for us, and so they definitely need to continue to be monitored.
Do the failures at Adopt get posted to Slack?
Yes, they do. We could even configure some of the OpenJ9 ones to post to your Slack as well.
That would be wonderful. We have an automation channel, and we could either add a second automation channel for adopt-related build issues, or post them to the same existing Jenkins channel.
Yep. I'd already investigated a while ago the option of having perhaps an OpenJ9 channel at Adopt that was linked in some way to a channel at the OpenJ9 Slack, but I never really got around to doing it because I know you can have a shared channel across Slack instances, but even something like just an automation channel on yours would be okay.
I would be surprised if the shared channel is available on the free editions.
It is. You just basically have to have a bot that runs, that mirrors the messages backwards and forwards. It's not the cleanest solution, but it does work.
Yeah, if we could have Jenkins post directly to an OpenJ9 channel, that would probably be cleaner than.
Yeah, we can do that. I think I need an API key, but other than that, it's pretty much easy to do.
Okay, let's follow up on that offline to get you the API key then.
Sure.
And what channel should we be looking at Adopt? The infrastructure channel?
Infrastructure bot, I think, is the channel. Oh no,
Jenkins.
Is the channel you want to be following.
Yeah.
Yes. So Jenkins is where all of the build failures go.
Specifically, I think it posts every time there's a change in status, doesn't there? So if it's repeatedly failing, it doesn't post again.
Yes, it will confirm when it's broken and confirm when it's fixed.
Yeah.
All right. So jumping back up to machines, was there other concerns around machines? Peter, we had been discussing the backlog on, was it x86 only?
Yeah, Adam, you mentioned a backlog last night for x86. Do you remember what that was?
Yeah, it was just because Linux runs both compressed and non-compressed. That's why we have double the amount of builds there. So when you run pull request test all, those machines take longer to get through. So that's why it was still running at midnight when the nightly kicked off.
Do you remember how many jobs were backlogged?
So at midnight, there was still 2 PPC running. So there was 2 machines available. And for Linux, there was still 4 running and 10 or 12 in the backlog waiting for machines still. So that would have meant like another couple hours before the nightly actually got a machine.
I wonder if we should have non-compressed references included in PR builds. Maybe that should be a special request. Same as JDK 9.
I mean, we can think about it, but I think we should just change the turn off 9 for now and see.
Sorry, my connection blipped there for a minute.
So I was suggesting we turn off the non-compressed Linux build by default. So if you ask for all sanity, you don't get the non-compressed. You have to explicitly request it.
And my response was, I think if we just disable 9 for now and see where that settles and how we're getting on, and then if it's still not enough, then we could turn off the large heap. Sorry, turn off the large heap.
Yeah, I'd be hesitant to turn off the large heap to start with. I'd like to make sure we're getting testing of that non-compressed refs path as well.
I suspect for many changes it doesn't matter. It's no different. And we will still have coverage in the nightlies. Anyways, we can see how it goes. We are going to have more demand for machines once we get JDK 11 in the open.
All right, so that's
once we get 11, how soon will we turn off 10?
10 is still supported until September when 11 goes GA.
So turning off 9 is only going to be fixed until 11 comes then.
That's right, although 11 may not work right away, we'll have to make sure all the test suites are passing on 11 when we get it out there.
Is there anything else on machines at this point, or should we jump to the next set of topics? All right. The JRE packages, does anybody have an update on this?
I think at the moment we've got the x86 Linux boxes building the JRE as well for one of the releases, and so it's a matter of testing that and making sure there aren't any problems with the fact that the build jobs are now producing multiple artifacts. So I think Shelley, I guess, is the person to ask whether that's caused any problems.
That's under investigation today. That's my, so the related thing is that recently we have the release tool not running against some of the builds. So I have to go and look and see if this change actually caused the stoppage of the other builds from being released at all in the last 5 days.
Yep.
All right. The large heap packages.
Pretty much in the same situation.
So
we've got the builds. So, yeah.
We've run testing. We've ground it with the grinder of all the different types of testing except PKs, but we haven't automated that testing yet. So I guess we can look at either adding to the build pipelines or just creating a nightly test run for the build. That build right now, is it still in the work in progress view, or is it now promoted up to?
It's still work in progress as far as I know, unless it's been duplicated in the other one. So yeah, it's in the work in progress view. It's called large heap at the end of the name.
Okay.
Oh, and it was copied.
So
it was also copied from the X Linux one, so you get a JRE popping out of that one as well.
Yes, I know. I noticed. Yeah, so we have a sudden flurry of new things to make sure are being built, tested, and released correctly at Adopt. So some of this activity will be done in tandem. So same for the Win32 build that's in the next
If there are areas where we can be helping out, carrying some of that load at Adopt, please let me know, and I'm happy to help out or have people on my team pick up some of that slack.
Thanks, Dan.
Okay. All right. We're running rapidly out of time. We're down to sort of the last 7 minutes before we run out of time on Zoom. Is there anything in the agenda that we need to talk about today?
Do we have any updates on COS builds at all?
Steve Kroger had contacted me, and And I believe once we have a ZOS machine attached to a Jenkins, we were going to try to run some testing against the build that he had. I'm not
Yes,
sure where we'll do that.
So internally, we have a ZOS, early ZOS build, and we are starting to look at trying to port the tests. So they'll run in the ZOS environment, starting with JT Reg. There's quite a few issues around episodic conversion, as you might expect. So also Steve's discovering from the adopt job streams that we are building a load of tools before we run the JT Reg tests, which isn't really practical in the Z environment for issues around episodic. Much easier to just get the jars, since most of them are required to be, they're all just class files anyway, most of the tools. So anyway, Steve's working through that. So I think we're way away yet from having anything like an external pipeline that's useful.
Can we not just run them on an ASCII file system?
We're trying to make it so there's a proper ZOS environment where you can do all your development and testing in the ZOS Unix USS, Unix System Services environment.
Okay, so I mean, you're not going to be able to get a Jenkins instance running. You're not going to be able to get ZOS on Jenkins in an acidic file system. There's something to tweak, I believe.
No, I don't mean no. It would just be the ZOS would just be a slave as far as Jenkins is concerned. So that should.
Right.
But I could point you to a test run on an internal ZOS machine where we convert the test material and run them. Right now, we are close to being able to run functional tests. We're still missing some Perl module to be installed, I think, on the ZOS machine that we have on an internal Jenkins. So this is an ongoing size task.
So it would be nice from our point of view, from a ZOS point of view, to have the same process in place, regardless of whether there's episodic issues or not. So if we could make it so that the ASCII builds do some things which perhaps they don't have to in order to assist the ZOS jobs just looking the same, that would be certainly good from our point of view. Sorry, did that answer the question? I've forgotten what it was originally. How we're getting on with ZOS, was that?
Yeah, I mean, we went a bit in depth, but yes, that's explained. I'll try and catch up with Shelley and have a look at how it's working internally. I just want to basically prepare, obviously, for doing that at adopt.
Yeah, that sounds good. The one other point I was going to bring up, Dan, is someone's reading our blog, because I got a direct message from someone not in our team asking about the most recent blog post we put around TestKit Gen and testing at OpenJ9. So that's good news. We have another one in the queue, the metronome talk from Alex. Alex is going to put a post up shortly, and we'll put a link to the little lightning talk that he did a few weeks ago as well. So that should come in the next week or two.
Excellent. And thank you to whoever is doing the video editing on that.
One thing on a similar topic, I've done a couple of video demonstrations which are on a Google Drive about downloading and configuring and run the JCK, particularly with a view to doing the interactives. But once you've done it, you can run any of them. Unfortunately, I can't make it that public because the JCK is all meant to be private, but everyone on this call is entitled to get access to that drive if they want to. So put the word around locally.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that, Simon, by the way. That's great.
We're down to sort of 2 minutes at this point. Is there any last business anybody wants to bring up? All right, then thank you everybody for joining today and for the great discussion that we've had, and we'll meet again next week.
Thanks, bye.
Bye then.
Cheers.